we're going to find all the zeros of the polynomial function. And as we look at the graph, we think, this doesn't look like whole numbers this time. And it kind of looks like there might be a kiss right there. I'm not sure, but it could be about negative half. I got my eye on negative half being maybe a kiss. And this looks like, I don't know, what would you call that? Is that 1 3/4? Something like that. And over here looks like, well, looks very similar. Looks like negative 1 3/4. Maybe something like that. I don't know. These are at least I can narrow it down a little bit. So my possibilities here are 3 on the top, and 4 on the bottom. All right, and factors of 3. So factors of 3, 1 and 3, plus or minus. And on the bottom, factors of 4, 1, 2, and 4. Okay, so let's see here. I have possibilities. Plus or minus 1, plus or minus 3. And then I have, divided by 2, I get 1/2. And I get 3/2. And divided by 4, I get 1/4 and 3/4. So let's see. Yeah. When I look at this, I think, I sure hope it's the 1/3 or 1/2 right there. I hope that 1/2 works out, and I hope it's a kiss, because it doesn't look like these other two I had my eye on. Negative, what is that? If I convert that to an improper fraction, that's negative 7/4. Do I see a negative 7/4 down here? Anything close to it? No, I don't. I mean, the closest thing to negative 7/4 would be negative 1. And the closest thing to positive 7/4 would be positive 1, I guess. Not very. Negative 2, or positive 2 is not on the board. So I'll tell you what, it better be half, or I'm in trouble. Because I know I have a possibility of 4, and I got to whittle it down by 2. All right, so if negative 1/2 doesn't work twice, then I have other problems. So let's try this. We'll say negative 1/2. That's in my box here. And I'm taking my coefficients, 4, and positive 4, and negative 11, and negative 12, and negative 3. They didn't leave anything out. It just went on down orderly. Okay, so here we go. We're dropping these down. 4 comes down. 4 times negative 1/2 is negative 2. 4 plus negative 2 is 2. Times negative 1/2 is negative 1. Plus negative 12, negative 11, it is negative 12. Times negative half is positive 6. Plus negative 12 is negative 6. Times negative half is positive 3. I get my 0. All right, that's good news. I got 1 0. Now, since I think it's a kiss, it's going to happen again. So let's see. We have negative 1 happens again, we think. And we'll bring these numbers down. And we'll say 4 times negative 1/2, that's negative 2. Plus 2 is 0, times negative 1/2 is 0, plus negative 12 is negative 12, times negative half is positive 6, and I get my 0 again. So what does that mean? That means that I have x plus 1/2, and it's squared. It happens twice. In other words, instead of saying squared, I guess I could write, just to make this more clear, you say, is that really 2 roots? Is that really 2 zeros? We count them. As many times as they happen, we count them. So it's 2 of those, so it's squared. And then what? We know that these other points are there. They're just not rational. You understand? If they were rational, they'd have been on my list here, but they're not on the list, so they must not be rational. What does it mean to be rational? It means I can express it as a fraction. But these guys I can't. But they're real, so you know what that means. That means it's quadratic time. And I'm going to take my 4 here, 4x squared, plus, I got a 0, so I don't need to say b, and then negative 12, and that's equal to 0. So I'm going to factor out a 4 because I don't need to deal with that. So there it is. A is equal to 1, B is equal to 0, and C is equal to negative 3. You say, what about the 4? Well, that won't affect my 0 any. So let's go ahead and find x. X is equal to minus b, well that's 0, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 0, minus 4, maybe I should put the 0 there just to make it clear. 0 minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 3. So you see it's not going to be negative, it's going to be real, it's just not rational, over 2 times a. Okay, so we have this plus or minus the square root of 12 over 2. The square root of 12, let me see, that's 2 times 2 times 3, right? And the 2 will come out. So it's equal to 2. What's left inside? After the twins come out is 1. 3 is left inside. I have 2 on the bottom. So it's the square root of 3. Plus or minus the square root of 3. So that means, those are all my, I could write this as x plus the square root of 3, and I should have really written negative first, because I said I was going to do plus first. So negative square root of 3, doesn't really matter. I'm just being a purist, maybe. Maybe I am, who knows. Okay, so what did we say our values were? Well, we said 1/2 happened twice, so I'm going to, wait a minute, it's negative 1/2, sorry about that. Negative 1 happened twice. So let me write it twice. It happened twice, so I'm gonna write it twice. And I have the square root of 3, and I also have negative square root of 3. And those are my 4 roots. And 2 of them are rational, and 2 of them are not, but they're all real. You know the square root of 3 never settles down, right? We might say it's about 1.73, but that's just an approximation, because it never quits. Okay, so 2 real. Oh, well, 4 real, 2 rational, and 2 irrational. No imaginary, though. There were no imaginary. There are literally 4 places, kind of 4 places. This is a kiss that counts for 2. There are 4 zeros that are all real. They're all real. If you get one that doesn't cross in 4 places, then some of yours will be imaginary, but you still have to find them. You know what's going to happen in that situation. You're going to get a negative. When you do your square root, you might get a negative under there, and then you know, well, I'm just going to write i's next to my answers, you know.